Hey everybody, today we are talking about Blueberry Muffin Murder by Joanne Fluke. So today I'm going to be making blueberry muffins while I talk to you about this book. The book starts out with Hannah and the town preparing for a winter carnival, this big festival, week-long or so thing that they're doing where everybody goes and does different winter activities. And Hannah, of course, is going to be baking a lot of cookies to have at the different booths for the different competitions and different things that they're doing during that week. One of the biggest things that's going on during this time is that they are having a special baker cook named Connie McIntyre, Connie Mac for short, and she's coming to the town because in the mall she is opening up a boutique of her kitchen supplies and all of the stuff that she uses in her videos of her making all of her different recipes. And so she's coming for the opening of her boutique to sign books at the library for her cookbook and to generally help create a crowd at all of these different events during the winter carnival. So it's supposed to be a big, huge thing since she's there and so many people just absolutely love her. So Connie Mac has just gotten into town and she needs to have a tour of all the different buildings that are going to be used for this winter carnival. And somebody needs to take her on this tour, and it's supposed to be, I don't remember who, but Hannah ends up getting wrapped into it to help, and she has Andrea help her too. So she ends up taking Connie around quite a lot. Before she went on the tour with Connie Mac, she was preparing the cookies, of course, and then she also was preparing the blueberry muffins. And so the blueberry muffins are special the way she makes them because she calls them blueberry muffins, because her ingredient that she adds is blueberry pie filling into the mix. And it's supposed to look kind of weird for the coloring, but then once they're done, it looks normal, I guess. So we're gonna find out how that works out by adding some blueberry pie filling to our recipe, which I've never done before for muffins. So we shall see how that makes an improvement, I'm assuming. We'll see. So everybody knows Connie Mac as this like sweetheart, this amazing baker and cook, and just all of her recipes are amazing, and they're so excited for her to come. And of course, when she is finally met for the first time by Hannah, Hannah realizes that this woman is like insane and really strict and really mean and totally opposite of what she looks like on TV, which, you know, I guess makes sense. Of course, you're gonna be amazing on TV in front of everyone. But in real life, she's just very bossy and has to have everything her way. And that creates a big problem for this winter carnival, which is like starting the next day and almost all the preparations have already been made, but she comes in and she has a thing or two to say about that. So some of the things, for example, that she has a problem with is the book signing is set up in the back of the library because the librarian wants everyone to go through the entire library to see all of the books that they have there to help her with her own library to be getting books checked out and stuff. So that's why she has it set up in the back, so that by the time they get to Connie Mac, they've seen a lot of things and maybe they'll check out more things than just Connie's book. And of course, Connie Mac has a problem with that. She doesn't want to be tucked away at the back of the building. She wants to be at the front. And so she like uses her sweet talk to like get what she wants and get her to get the booth in the front. And she continues to do things like that to other people as she goes through this tour of all the things, and basically makes it seem like it's not a big deal for them to change it to make it to be what she wants. And pretty much everyone's like, fine, okay, and does it anyway, even though it creates a big wrench in a lot of their plans. And so she's basically coming across as a nightmare. You can probably guess where this is going. So let me just hurry and get this started on the next step, and then I will tell you what happens next. The recipe calls for 2 beaten eggs, and so I'm going to do that real quick. It just says to use a fork. All of her recipes always say that. Whenever it has to do with eggs, she always says just beat with a fork. No mixer or any complicated tools, just use a fork. Preferably without shells. So one of the things that Connie Mack is contributing to this winter carnival, besides just signing books and opening her boutique, is she's actually supposed to present this huge, beautiful cake for everyone to eat for like near the end of the festival or carnival. Something happens to the driver of the truck that the cake was in, where he had to like swerve off the road. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but he ended up in a ditch and the cake got completely ruined. And to have this fixed, she's gonna need to make a new cake. And so she needs somewhere where she can make this cake. And of course, the inn that has a ton of ovens and stuff is really preoccupied because Sally has to make a ton of food over there at the inn already, and so she doesn't have any free ovens. So of course Hannah's bakery has ovens that can be used, and so Hannah was trying to avoid as much as possible Connie Mack, even through the tour, trying to avoid having Connie ask something of her. And here it is, somebody volunteered her shop that could be used, and so she has to let Connie Mack use her kitchen. And her old friend that moved away, that used to live growing up with them in the same town, she actually was Connie's assistant. And so she comes over and she's like, I'm so sorry that this happened, Hannah. I promise we'll keep everything the way that it was. We'll fix everything back to how you had it. We'll clean up after our mess. It'll be like we weren't even here. She's like, okay, fine. And she leaves, and Connie Mack is already starting to like rearrange the kitchen and everything. So then fast forward to the morning, the early morning, when Hannah's needing to get ready for the day, make some more cookies and deliver the cookies to the different booths that are going on for the winter carnival. And she pulls in and discovers that her bakery is completely trashed. She goes in, the door is open. She already sees that the door was not shut tight, and that like worries her. And then she goes in more and finds out that they didn't clean. The entire thing is a mess. There's stuff all over the place, flour, and just a huge mess. And she's like, I cannot believe this. I have so much to do, and now I have to clean my kitchen. That is a mess. And so she's pretty upset. And she walks over to where the pantry area is and realizes, before she does that, she realizes that there's cakes. The cakes that are in the ovens are burning. Like, Connie just left the cakes in the ovens going with the ovens on and everything. Oh my gosh, Hannah was so livid. But then she goes to the pantry and she sees feet on the floor. And what do you know? Connie Mack is dead. So that's why the mess is still there, because she didn't have a chance to clean up after herself. She didn't have a chance to turn off the ovens and take out the cakes. And so, of course, Hannah's bakery is a crime scene, and that really sucks, because then she has to figure out another place. Luckily, the inn Sally's letting them use the inn to like continue to cook for everything, so that's nice. So Hannah calls Bill and Mike, and they come over, they tape everything off so she can't be in there. Eventually they are able to give her recipe cards back, because they didn't seem like they would have any fingerprints on them, so they felt like it was safe to give her those. But she kind of had her cookie dough, all of her dough that she prepared was kind of on hold for a little while, until they were for sure that it wasn't possible evidence. So that kind of sucked for her, having to deal with all that. And then she gets into her whole mode of like, I need to solve this mystery so I can get my bakery back, so I can get my shop back and get back to normal. And so that, of course, Mike is like telling her that, you know, you can't do that. You gotta stay away from this for a while, and do not investigate stuff, because I don't want you around this. Like, don't do it. And she's like, okay. And like, But she's like, I have to though, because then Andrea's like, are you actually gonna, her sister Andrea is like, are you really gonna stay away? She's like, well, no, because I need to get my bakery back. She's like, okay, well, so they have some boundaries. Like, they're not gonna talk to any of Connie Mac's actual people, but they're gonna talk to the people that just live in the town. So that's the plan of what's going on. I'm preparing the blueberries with a little bit of flour, and then they're going to stay in this bag for now. Is what the recipe says. And then we're gonna add a lot of flour into this bowl. Yeah, I think so. I realize I could probably have done this all in this bowl to start with, but a lot of times recipes will be like, do your wet ingredients first and then your dry ingredients next. And so I didn't look fully enough in the recipe to see that I actually could have just used one bowl, so whatever. Okay, so to get to the main point of this book, and then we can finish the blueberries and see how, or the muffins and see how they taste. In this book, a lot of it is, again, just continuing to be Hannah trying to solve the mystery of who killed Connie Mac and how did it happen, eliminating suspects from her list, taking notes, doing all of those, you know, things that like a detective would do, even though she's just a little baker of mostly cookies. But she is having a hard time this time. She's eliminated a lot of people, but she is nowhere closer to finding who it is. This time, it's not quite as easy as it has been in the last two books for her. She's having a little bit harder of a time this time around. She did find another person that got killed. It seems like there is a trend in these books, at least so far. The 30 books I've read all have 2 people that end up dying and 1 person that's responsible. So that's kind of a trend I'm seeing here so far. It happened again in this book. There are 2 people that died, and she happened to be the one to find them, which she doesn't always find them alone. She usually finds them with somebody else. At least the second body, it seems like she finds that one with somebody else around. But she's still having a hard time figuring out who it is. There's also this other storyline of a ghost, of Ezekiel Jordan's ghost, because that's like, the town is really proud of like that family. That's why, part of the reason why the winter carnival is going on is so that they can celebrate the founders of the town. I think they're the founders of the town. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I read the beginning part of this book. It took me longer to finish this one because I was reading it at the same time as another one. So anyways, I'm pretty sure that they're really important in the town, and so they recreated a house. Hannah's mom recreated a house to look like Ezekiel Jordan's home, and so apparently there's like this ghost story that he was doing a poker game and he was wronged and he lost, and so he was gonna curse everybody who was part of that poker game, and so people thought they saw a ghost at the inn, and then someone wrote it in the paper, and then now there's like this whole ghost storyline going on, which seems kind of random, but like it's in the book too, and so we have other things going on besides just Hannah trying to figure out who died or who the killer was. I'll tell you, it is tricky talking about a book and cooking at the same time. I'm clearly having a hard time doing them at the same time, but it's fine. So I'm gonna get some flour now, and then we'll almost be ready to cook these. Okay, so while I mix these ingredients together, we're almost done here. Hannah, like I said, she's having a harder time figuring it out this time, which I kind of liked, because usually it just seemed like it was way too convenient for her to be getting all of the pieces of the puzzle just so easily in the other books of like finding out who it was. And this one, she's just coming she has come across a blank, basically. She just doesn't know. And I liked that, but it also made it possible for me to kind of think, well, who do I think it is? And I figured out who it was way early. I mean, I guess it's not really hard to guess who it is, but the way that this one was written made it seem a little bit less obvious, but I just kind of had a feeling like, oh, it's gonna be that person. It's just gonna be that person. And it turned out to be that person. So it makes sense why Hannah didn't think it was them based on all the things that she was learning. It didn't really make sense for that person to be the killer until like the last little part of the book, where finally the final piece of the puzzle that was missing she found, and it was like, it totally makes sense now. It still didn't completely make full sense to her because she knew this person in a way that she didn't think they would be capable of something like that. It didn't really make sense to her, but with all the evidence and stuff, it checked out, and you know, she just realized she didn't know that person as well as she thought she did anymore, and that can happen. So yeah, that's about it with the main story. They had the carnival that involved ice fishing, it involved snowman making competitions. There is some stuff developing in her relationship with Norman and with Mike. They're still both big parts of the book. In fact, our poor Norman gets hit on the back of the head and almost becomes a victim of the murderer, and so that happens. That was bad. But he ended up being okay. Luckily, things worked out for him, and he just had a big bump on the head and headache, but it was not as bad as it could have been. But there's like a moment where she's like conflicted about the two of them. She's just not sure how she feels, and then like one of them kisses her and she's like, this is great. And then like, I think in the very next chapter, she goes and she meets up with like Mike or something, and then they kiss too. So there's a lot of her being romanced by these two guys where she's like, oh, I don't think that he cares as much. And then the next second they're like kissing, and then she's like, oh my gosh. So they have both good qualities, but that's still going on. I'm wondering if maybe she'll finally settle down with one of them in the fourth book, or maybe maybe Mike will get transferred and he'll have to go and leave, and so she'll end up with Norman just because she has no other choice anymore. I don't know. We'll see, because I'm most likely gonna read all of these books now. I feel like I'm 3 books in already. I might as well just finish them out, right? Even though there's like 20 more, but it's fine. That's what's going on. There's a ghost story. There is some flirtation between Norman and Mike, like always. There is a Miss Hannah Swenson trying to figure out the murder and everything, and she does eventually figure it out yet again. I still think it's interesting how she comes up with ideas and information so much quicker than the actual people's who that's their job. And you would think that one of these times she would like go somewhere to get evidence and she'd run into Mike already there doing it themselves and being like, you're not supposed to be here, and you know, beating her to it, because that would make sense. So we'll see if that happens in future books. But yeah, anyway, I always enjoy reading them because they're just fun, and they're not, you know, it's nice to try and guess along the way, and I get to make recipes. That's the fun part. So we're gonna go ahead and get these baking, and then I will taste them, and yeah, I'll see you in a minute. All right, they are done and out of the oven. They look like this. The white stuff on the top is a little crumble made of like flour and sugar and butter that I was supposed to put over it. I was a little impatient in the crumbling process, so that's why it doesn't look very crumbly, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and try one of these. The recipe also said that if you had extra batter, which you definitely will have extra batter, that you could just make it in like a little loaf pan. This is like the smallest loaf pan I have, so it's really tiny in here, but this is where my leftover batter went in, so it made like just a little blueberry bread loaf instead of muffins. So I'm sure it'll taste exactly the same. The recipe also says that you should wait for them to cool so that they can come out of the tin easier. They came out of the tin easier for me just because I had the paper lining on it, so I did not wait. So they're probably gonna be not fully set up, but I can already tell that they should cool. But I just want to taste it right now so I can tell you what it tastes like. So we're just gonna eat it now. Ooh. They're really good. They taste just like you would expect a blueberry muffin to taste. I don't really feel like I can tell that there is pie filling in there. It might make it more moist. Maybe that's why it's so, yeah, on the inside, it's not super dry. And the pie filling probably helps it not be dry. But again, this is like right out of the oven, so it's not like I let it set up anymore. So maybe it would be more firm if it was cooled. But at the same time, they taste really nice. I really like the taste of these. I'll probably make these again, especially since I have a ton of leftover blueberry pie filling. So, yeah, they're good. So if you want to read a story about ghosts and murder and, well, 2 murders, and a story about a winter carnival and recipes that you can make, then you can read this book and you can find out who the killer is for yourself. I will say that you do not have to read the first 2 books to enjoy this one, because they didn't mention anything about the second book. And the only thing that really is mentioned is that Hannah's mom was like, you've got to quit finding dead bodies. And that's like the only thing. So like, there's not really a lot of context that you need to have prior to reading this one, which I'm sure is what it is for most of them. But yeah, this one is totally fine to read on your own. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.